Hey, what's up guys, Ken here. Today I have something that really sets a new expectation for what cheap audio can do. This is the Moondrop Chu, and it's good. Now, Moondrop has since released a second version of these with detachable cables and a slightly more V-shaped sound, but according to most reports, the sound characteristics are largely the same. My preferences lean more towards a neutral sound, so I went with the original Chus. So these are single driver dynamic IEMs with a relatively neutral tuning with a slight sub-bass boost. While they're not the most technically perfect set of IEMs, they really demonstrate what $20 can get you these days. These sound pretty good for how cheap they are, and I'm not just saying that they sound good for $20, these just sound good. But beyond the neutral and balanced tuning, these don't have a really big magical wow factor to them. But again, these were less than 20 bucks. So I'm not sure what's with the obsession with anime in the world of IEMs, but you get your waifu thing here. These come in a great looking box for the price bracket, although the cutout in the cardboard didn't quite align properly with the IEMs. In the box you get your Chus, 3 pairs of ear tips, and some ear hooks that you should probably just throw away, and a small case. As always, this is a fake unboxing for anyone curious about the unpacking experience. As these don't have a detachable cable, these are purely plug and play with a 3.5mm jack. Obviously no Bluetooth, so you'll have to use an adapter for any phone without a headphone port. So for $20, the build quality of the body really give IEMs that are twice as expensive a good run for their money. While the actual design is a bit simple and leave a little bit to be desired, the actual build is basically all metal and doesn't feel cheap at all. That is of course outside the fact that it doesn't have a detachable cable. Speaking of the cable, it's okay, it's not great. It does tangle pretty easily and it's moderately microphonic. Comfort's okay, the ear hooks are basically useless and they don't add any real value to the Chus. The ear tips are also only okay. They're kind of flimsy, so it's kind of hard to get a good seal on them, but once they're in there, they're fine. Personally, I haven't had any problems with comfort once they're seated in my ear. So let's talk a little bit about the sound quality. This is the most important part about audio products. So the bass on the Chus is pretty good. Now, these are a neutral tuning with a sub-bass boost, but there's still not a lot of bass if that's what you're going for. There is a big difference between high quality bass and high quantity of bass. These lean more towards having quality bass in that things are well under control, but not the tightest performance, but still passable for $20. Drums are relatively punchy, but the overall bass performance doesn't really impart a ton of resolution and detail. There's good sub-bass extension to give the low end some nice body, but as you could probably tell from my assessment, these are probably not for bass heads. Being a relatively neutral set of IEMs, nothing really sticks out here, but the mids are pretty good. Vocals are represented pretty well, but don't necessarily impart any sort of magic to the sound. The tonality does lean a little bit bright here, which gives it a greater sense of detail and clarity than what's actually real. That's about it for the mids. Nothing incredible, but nothing too lifeless that it's completely boring. The highs on the Chu are nice and airy. There's a good level of detail retrieval without sounding too harsh or sibilant, but some people might still find these too bright for their tastes. There's nice sparkle over the instruments and sounds in this range without sounding artificial. Again, nothing too magical, but nothing too lifeless. It's a neutral sound. Now the soundstage is pretty intimate. Not that I would call it super narrow, but it's not super expansive either. If I had to give a physical description, the sound expands about to this area, but not much farther than that. There isn't much three-dimensionality to the sound. There's a lot more width information than depth. The imaging is also only okay. Sometimes the placement of instruments can be a little bit vague, and oftentimes the image will actually feel a little bit disjointed. Now, all of that to say, this is still a respectable performance from $20 IEMs. Overall, the sound character is a neutral tuning with a sub-bass boost. It's a matter-of-fact sound. That's about it. They do what they're designed to do, and for $20, they do it well. Now, if I had to be really critical, there isn't really much to the technical aspect of these IEMs, and they don't add any particular magic to the sound, but that's a lot to ask for such budget-friendly IEMs. So from everything that I just said, you might be justified to think that these are just lukewarm IEMs, but that's not what I think at all. These are a masterclass in value, and just for some perspective, the wired Apple EarPods are within the same ballpark of price, and those actually sound like what we would expect cheap audio to actually sound like. The Chus make a great case in making good quality audio more and more accessible to the masses, and I like that. Everyone should have a chance to experience good audio and hear their music through good gear. So I have no problem recommending these to anybody who's looking for a balanced and neutral sound from a budget-friendly IEM. So yeah, that's the Moondrop Chus. They deliver a relatively neutral tuning with a sub-bass boost, and they do it well. Just don't expect them to blow away IEMs that cost hundreds of dollars. If you check your expectations, you will be happy with these. Now, if nothing else, these are an incredible demonstration of what budget-friendly audio gear is capable of delivering these days. And all of that from a single dynamic driver. Seriously, when I first got into all of this, I was enamored with all of these multi-driver IEMs, but at this point, I really don't think that's even necessary. I've learned my lesson, and if a single driver is enough for companies like Etymotic and Sennheiser, it's probably enough for most people. Anyways, that's it for the Chus. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you farther down the rabbit hole.